Hey, buddies. What's going on out there, y'all? Gotta clear the smoke. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show, the call-in, the locals thing. We do this on Thursday nights. That means it must be 7 o'clock here Central Time and 8 o'clock on the East Coast. And it's even late enough, we hope, that our friends over on the West Coast can join us. If you guys want to be part of the program, all you got to do is join the locals, or you can be a subscriber over on X. I see some of you guys are going to do that as well. That's cool. Just made the post for all the subscribers. It's actually really inexpensive on X. I don't know. I support people that I like on X, whether I get any value from their subscribership or not. I think most of them I don't. I think I just do it because it's the right thing to do for certain people who have useful information that I regularly find in my feed and go looking for. So anyway, if you guys want to do that, I think it's like $1.99 or $2. So it gives you access to the phone. It also supports our show, which is really nice. We can do these programs, kind of chat with you, kind of touch base, see what's going on in the world. A couple of things. Sounds like we just had Russ Vought was approved over at the office of whatever it is, OMB. Is that what it's called? The budget office. He just got confirmed in a slightly more contentious vote than we had for Pam Bondi. He was a 53-47. Yeah, we're not huge Russ Vought fans over here. He may have been one of the people behind Project 2025, but he also was the guy that fired Steve Friend for, just being my buddy. Because they didn't like that I'm mean to people that suck. Oh, I guess the big news, apparently, going to have a fist fight. James O'Keefe, going to get some charity benefits. He agreed to it, so don't let him walk away from that. That sounds hilarious. Put on some gloves, throw some hands, raise some money for a charity. I don't know. I don't think he's going to do it, but he did say that I need to be turned back to the dark cave from whence I came. I guess he didn't know any scripture, so he decided to quote The Exorcist, which is basically like quoting scripture if you don't know scripture. It's kind of like the Hollywood version of it, which makes sense because James O'Keefe is an actor who's on testosterone and or whatever, steroids. I don't think that guy's ever been hit in the face. So that sounds fun. Anyway, let's go ahead and say the phone line is open. Folks, if you haven't seen the number, it is in the show description. You can click through it. If you're part of the locals channel, you'll obviously be able to pull it right up. I'll see if we've got folks over in the locals chat, which I should be looking at, but I wasn't. Locals people, what are you guys all doing? There you are, posting pictures of dogs and other weird stuff. So this show is for you. If you guys want to call in, you want to chat, I got a couple things. I'm going to play you actually this Milton Friedman clip that I've been meaning to get the whole thing in. We can kind of listen to it for a little bit while we watch the phone line. And if you guys want to dial in while it's on, we can talk about it. But the question always comes down to, what should we abolish? What should we get rid of? I played a little bit of it earlier today. I'll play you a little bit more of it now because I think it's very funny. Actually, I might even skip ahead. So let's do that. Let's do a little bit of Milton Friedman talking about kind of the mission of Doge. It's not new, getting rid of things that are part of the federal government. It's not new at all. I'll take your take. What is your least favorite government agency? Phone lines are open.
Keep them or abolish them? Department of Agriculture.
Abolish.
Gone.
Oh, man.
Department of Commerce.
Abolish.
Gone. Department of Defense.
Keep.
Keep.
Getting slums.
Jack Kemp.
You remember that Martin Anderson wrote a book on the federal bulldozer describing the effect of the urban development. There have been many more dwelling units torn down in the name of public housing than have been built.
Jack Kemp has proposed selling to the current inhabitants of public housing their unit, their townhouse, their apartment for $1 a piece, and just shifting the ownership to the people who live in it.
If you got rid of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would be worth doing that.
All right, done. That's gone. Department of the Interior. Your beloved National Park Service.
Well, given the problem there is, you first have to sell off all the land that the government owns. But that's what you should do.
But it could be done pretty quickly.
It could be done. You should do that. There's no reason for government to own. The government now owns something like 1/3 of all the land in the country.
And that's too much. Should go down to zero.
Should go down to, well, not entirely zero. They ought to own the land on which government buildings are.
Okay, terrific. Department of Justice.
Oh, yes.
Keep that one.
Keep that one.
Labor.
No.
Gone. State.
Keep.
Keep it. Transportation.
Gone.
Gone. The Treasury.
You have to keep it to collect taxes.
All right, collect taxes through the Treasury. Veterans Affairs.
You can regard the Veteran Affairs as a way of of paying essentially salaries for services of those who have been in the armed force. But you ought to be able to get rid of it.
You should be able to
just
pay it off.
Pay it off.
Pay off lump sums, perhaps.
That's right.
And just get rid of it. From 14 departments down to four
basic
and a half.
fundamental functions. What are its fundamental functions? Preserve the peace, defend the country.
All right.
Provide a mechanism whereby individuals can adjudicate their disputes. That's the Justice Department. Protect individuals from being coerced by other individuals. The police function.
Right.
And now, this is both the central government and the state and local governments. The police function is primarily local and central.
Right.
And those are the fundamental functions of government, in my opinion.
That's pretty straightforward stuff. You know, protect the American people from force and fraud. Looks like we did have a call come in, but it didn't make it. So give me a call back if you were dialing in and leaving a voicemail. Call in again. I will get it this time. I'm going to go ahead and post the phone number over in the locals chat because some of you can't find it. I understand that I pin it and I make it easy, but that's fine. We're going to give it over there. Yeah, if you dialed in, you guys, you know who you were. Call in and see. Let's see if I can actually play this. We'll see if it comes out. Voicemail. What do you think? Think we got a voicemail here? Maybe. No, doesn't want to play. Doesn't play on that route. So you guys won't know this, but the phone system that I'm using, it requires a cable if I want to do audio from the phone, but if I want to do a phone call, it has to be on Bluetooth. Makes no sense whatsoever, but it's a limitation that we deal with. All right, bring it on caller number 1. Who's our first caller? Are you on the line? Here we go. Who's on the line? This should be working. Hello, hello. What do we got going on here? Can you hear me? Well, that's not good. All right, everybody. 1 second here. This call failed. I'm going to blame it on the technology. Stand by. Okay. Try again. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on here. Prank calls coming in. There we go. Yes, and I see your voicemails dropping in. There we go. All right. First caller. Can you hear me? This is not good. How about now? Can you hear me now? So goofy. I'm blaming it on the technology. All right, till I straighten it out. Stand by. Let's go back to a song. All right, caller number 1, are you on the line? You should be on the line. Can you hear me? Well, what do we think's going on here? No good reason for this not to work. Oh, okay. Stand by, y'all. I'm going to reboot the phone. Yeah, right? Bill 21 wants to know if there's a van down the street. It wouldn't be an FBI van that'd be messing with us. I could do it straight from the telco. And just do it from their own terminals. Let's go ahead and get a little reboot here. All right, we're going to connect the board, and we're going to get this thing re-going here. You guys may not know that, but that song was actually composed by or played by my younger brother. And it was one of the original things that we did with this podcast. We actually started running it right there with that being our song. For some reason, we're not able to get this thing to connect, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I don't like it at all. And I don't have the ability to get a phone call on if I can't connect to the board. So we're going to try again. And calling in is not going to make it any easier, y'all. We're not there yet. We're going to have to forget the device and add it back. Well, that's really frustrating. This shouldn't be that difficult. This is something we do every week. Go figure. Who knew we were going to have some shenanigans today? All right. Go ahead and add it back in. Go to our... Let's get another tune going.
Stolen treasure. Stolen treasure.
That's not a tune. System. Bluetooth. All right, we're going to disconnect from the phone. We're going to get it reconnected. I'll give you guys a CNN video while we're messing with this.
What is the status of the lawsuits as of this moment?
So tomorrow there will be a hearing in federal court, and we'll see what the judge decides based on the filing for a temporary restraining order.
And what are you expecting, hoping? I mean, you're obviously hoping the judge will grant that, but what does that look like, and where do you go from there?
You know, I think it looks like I'm hoping that the court comes in and ensures that the DOJ keeps agents' information private.
And because that's been the concern. So essentially, this questionnaire went out last week, over the weekend. It hit their inboxes, basically saying if you worked on this in any kind of rank and file fashion, acknowledge it here. And their concern was that list being turned over, that their names could be used for termination or made public.
Right. So, you know, I spoke to an agent last week, and they were part of the recovery for the tragic plane crash that we had over the Potomac. And they were doing recovery of body parts, a gruesome scene. And then they had to go back to the office and fill out a survey about their investigative activities related to January 6th. So it's been somewhat distracting for agents, and agents need to focus on the mission, focus on what their job is, and focus on, you know, keeping the American public safe and upholding the Constitution.
So just to be, the agent was helping in the Potomac and then had to go back to acknowledge where they played a role in the investigations of January 6th rioters?
Right. So, and this is happening all over the Bureau, or did happen all over the Bureau, where agents are out on the street doing work, you know, upholding the Constitution, investigating criminals, stopping cyber threats, you name it, and then we're being called back into the office to fill out a survey with details about our activities on for the investigations related to January 6th.
What did the agents say about how that made them feel?
It's concerning, it's concerning for the agents to be put on a list. I know these are controversial investigations, but and there's a way to review them and investigate them and ensure that there was no misconduct. But putting your name on a list and having it sent over and not really knowing where it was going to be or what it was going to be used for was concerning. Agents are concerned about their safety and their family's safety.
Were any of the agents comforted at all by what Emil Bove had to say today in that statement, saying that no one who followed orders and just carried out their duties related to this is going to be, or is at risk of termination or other penalties? Is that how the agents see it?
I think that's how the agents see it. And it's a step in the right direction for him to address what exactly he was looking for. But it's not confirmation. So we're looking for confirmation of what they're planning to do with this.
And how do they feel about Kash Patel potentially being on the verge of becoming the FBI director, or Pam Bondi taking over as Attorney General today?
Okay, I think we're excited to have permanent leadership over at DOJ. We're excited to move forward and to be able to focus on our work. And we're excited to have leadership at the Bureau. And I think, transitions are tough for organizations, but I think I think once we get through this and we can just get back to business within the FBI, I think we'll all be in a better place.
All right. Well, that was a pain in the butt, but I rebooted the board. We rebooted the phone. We listened to an FBI lady talk for a little bit. Nothing gets thrown out the window. And we're live. Welcome to the program. Who do I got on the line?
Well, it's probably your dad.
That's what I figured.
To help you out here, so.
I thought I called you, and then you came in on the pseudo line. So good for you. Well done. It all works.
Yeah. Well, I tried calling back on the other line. That didn't work either, but went right to voicemail. But apparently, another low-level judge has delayed the deadline for the resignation of federal employees.
Yeah, the fork. It's been delayed.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're listening to federal judges that are not listed in the Constitution as important. They're not actually written down. I don't think they have the power to stop a president. Call me crazy.
Well, maybe they'll drag it out after March, and then those positions will just not be budgeted. And then, unfortunately, instead of getting paid until September, they will get their 2-week severance and have a nice day.
Yeah, that would be catching the fork, wouldn't it? Right in the butt.
That's right. I'm going to hang up so you can talk to one of your big fans, but I'm glad you got it fixed.
Thanks, Dad. There you go, folks. Family show.
Love you.
Love you too. That's my dad, Charlie, calling in, saving the day, you all. All right, let's make this let's happen. Now we got a proof of concept. Everything is working. Feel free to dial in. All of you that have dialed, I've got like 1,100 missed calls while we were trying to figure it out. Calling in did not make it fixed. Rebooting the board made it fixed. That seems dumb. All right, phone line's open. Thanks for your patience. For those of you that are sitting in here, we're watching the chat just go a little bit nuts, so we might as well throw it up on the screen. The only thing you guys don't see is the subscribers only chat, which is also going nuts. First call coming in. Second call coming in. All right. Welcome to the program. Who am I talking to?
Hey, man, it's Mark, a.k.a. whatever 007.
Just whatever, man. Whatever. Mark, thanks for your patience. How many dial-ins did you try? Because you seem like you might have been hammer calling.
95.
95, okay.
95.
And you have 13% of the total calls attempting to make it happen. What's going on, buddy? What do you got in your heart?
Oh, dude, I'm just, I'm really happy. My theme was going to be about winning, and then these call failures kind of took a little bit of, steam out of my my engine there.
I can feel that.
Dude, just happy. We're doing so good. It's sort of it's like this gift that keeps on giving, and I'm here for it, man.
You have a vocal pattern that is similar to producer Phil. Do you know that?
No, I don't know that I heard producer emeritus Phil At least I don't recall hearing him, so I can't.
Yeah, you have to go way back, and it was always off camera, but on audio. I mean, he was mic'd up. Where'd you grow up?
A little bit mixed bag. I grew up mostly in Wilmington, Delaware until I was 8, and then Houston from all through adolescence, and then Austin.
Yeah, and I find that my vocal patterns tend to follow my father's. Do you find the same thing?
I don't, not that I can tell. I do have a lot of family, I'm actually in New York City right now. I got a lot of family on Long Island, so I could probably easily transition into the New York or Long Island thing if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
I get, so Phil was up in the Maryland and not too far from Delaware. That whole kind of corridor has a sound. There's a vocal pattern to it, and only for people of a certain age, from what I can tell. So for whatever,
I've never heard that comment, but that it obviously makes sense.
I mean, I've just dialed in because I listen to some voices more than others, and you have the pattern. So there it is. That would have been, my guess would have been Northeast in a non-punitive way. I would have said that.
So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, that's good. It's good to hear, man.
You got a charity of choice. Should we give some money to somebody and do a boxing match with JOK?
Oh man. So if you're fighting that guy, what's the most masculine charity there is? I guess is how I would think about it first.
I think we could do something like we could raise money for the Pipe Hitter Foundation or something like that, right? Should we go to like Eddie Gallagher's foundation, the guys that go out there and just help dudes that are doing their job and getting screwed over?
I mean, that seems appropriate if you're fighting that guy as a really extra FU to him. That's where my head goes first, I guess. Right.
I mean, the alternative is like some sort of like cuckolded charity, like dudes who sit in the corner and watch other guys do stuff. But
then he wins even if he loses. So that's the problem with that one.
Right. Yeah, I think that's called OMG Media. Okay, so fair enough. So I like it. I like the idea. The Pipe Hitter Foundation. That's what I'm going to, and maybe Eddie Gallagher will want to come and see this. Maybe he can referee for us. That sounds fun.
I mean, why not? Let's get Joe Rogan on this thing.
I don't think Joe's interested. It's pretty low dollar. I mean, I don't think he's going to show. Honest to God, if I showed up to a ring, I would be gobsmacked if he actually showed up. I've stood toe to toe with James O'Keefe, and he was telling me how hard his life was because.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, could you hear me?
Lost audio.
What happened? You must have muted yourself.
No, yeah, maybe so. Anyway, you're back. Thank you.
Yeah, I've stood toe to toe with James when he was telling me that he experienced a lot of difficulty in his life. He had house arrest at his parents' house like about 15 years ago, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I was being drowned every day for 100 days in a row during that time. Interesting. Yeah, sounds very hard, dude. I mean, I guess he pulled the old just agree to it so he can say that he did, but knowing that he's not ever going to go through with it. Is that sort of what you expect? I think he just likes to talk. He's an actor. So, actors.
Yeah.
He thought that the best line was to try to cast me into the void like a demon because he's only seen The Exorcist. He doesn't actually go to church. Did you read that?
Yeah, so I heard you talking about it earlier. I didn't read it yet. I've been just working all day.
You've been doing gainful, productive things. I feel like I should find the post because I actually just retweeted it because it's just really funny. Sometimes people say things that are so dumb that you just can't help it. Like, what do you do with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing it abound today, right? I mean, the reaction from all the talking heads on the left is it's just hysterical. All these people who are the pro unelected bureaucrat crowd, bitching about Elon Musk who's unelected, is just beautiful. It's like, tell me about what Doge's doing, what he's doing that you don't like or you think is inappropriate and actually like specific actions.
No, we don't do that.
Like just the yeah, we don't do that. There's no specifics ever. It's all just he's a bad guy doing bad things and he's such a bad person. How bad is that? He's
a terrible, terrible, mean, very bad, no good guy, right? I'm gonna put the tweet on the board here. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
It's really silly. Okay, let me throw it on the screen here. So here it is. James O'Keefe, 9 hours ago, said, "I'll beat you in the first round KO, not just because I'm stronger than you, but because no weapon formed against me shall prosper. You are a nasty, cowardly Fed who published revenge porn. The power of Christ compels you to go back to the pitch black cave you crawled out of." Did that sound tough in his head? Do you think that he thought that sounded like super tough? The power of Christ compels me. Oh, it's so fun.
Well,
Show
and
up,
I
dude.
wonder, like, how many fellow, I'm trying not to curse here. How many fellow people of his sexual persuasion did he share that text with first, or the post with first before he sent it, before he posted it to like get verified? Hey, does this sound good enough? Yeah, man, you totally got him with that. Good job.
Look, you savagely burned him. Yeah. The reason he was responding to me saying something. I said, James, I was in the military and I was in the FBI and I stood against the FBI as an agent. You sang show tunes out of tune on Timcast, and you left your investigative team to dance in the play Oklahoma, which is factually accurate. Like that's all true. Like he sang out of tune on Timcast, and he did leave his people in the lurch to go to do a play. Anyway, I don't know. I have to imagine that wasn't the first draft. If that was the first draft, even funnier, because if that's where his brain goes, is like pseudo melodrama. It's just beta stuff. But anyway, I look forward to it. I look forward to standing. He's about 5 inches taller than me, and he probably has 50 pounds on me. But I would very much be interested in knowing what the most difficult thing James O'Keefe has ever done is. Yeah, other than voluntary grinder transactions. I'm sure some of those are very acrobatic and whatnot, but.
Yeah, no, he's definitely flexible in all the wrong places.
Good point.
If this happens, I will commit, I don't know, $1,000 to this charity in your favor, betting on you to win. So there's my offer.
$1,000 to the charity, which will be the Pipe Hitters Foundation. So you'll be back in Eddie Gallagher's efforts to okay. That's a solid offering. Yeah.
Real men doing real things.
Now, other people just want to bet on this, which I think is fine. I think people should be able to bet if they want to bet. There should be some sort of proxy side bet situation. The funny thing is
it's going to be so one-sided. The odds are going to suck because everything's going to be like voting on you.
No. Everyone's going to vote for James. James has all the fans. Like that's the biggest thing. He has like 3 million fans. So that makes your odds really. You could actually probably come out of this really well if you wanted.
All right. Now we're talking.
Like I said, he's got 50 pounds on me, and he's got the reach, and I don't think he's ever been hit ever by anything. Like I don't think he's ever been hit by someone. Even like a grown man has never done more than slap him, which is pretty funny.
I mean, I can't hold back. So you mean besides consensual penises hitting him?
I'm not talking about docking here. I'm not talking about sword fights. I'm talking about pugilistic encounters with another adult male. I don't think it's ever happened.
Don't use that word. That word has connotations to it. Pugilistic is, I don't know. It just feels a little, anyway.
Kind of Spartacus, gladiator kind of moments, yeah. Dress up.
Things through a certain lens.
Look, I don't know what the profile says that allows him to get all these deep state nobodies, but somebody was like, how else would he be able to find the intern who overheard the boss saying something about the things that his friends were going to do if they had a chance to in another agency? It's like, yeah. That's
all right. So question then.
Fire away.
Is O'Keefe, is he on the USAID list of beneficiaries?
I don't know. He just accused me of that, so I don't know. I doubt it. I think it's funny.
No.
What a wild time to be finding out all this stuff, though. Like they just laid off all like their 14,000 employees, and they kept 294 of them.
Heck yeah!
Breaking
what
today.
What you do? It's awesome. I thought the $8 million to Politico, and Ben Shapiro was saying it's like actually $16 million through however you want to count it. Doesn't matter. It's too much money. I'm wondering. Here's a random theory, but remember the whole CNN Plus, rollout?
Yeah.
Like we're like, okay, you guys have no viewers for free, and you're gonna. So I wonder if that was a mechanism that somehow went bad, but like the idea was to create this for pay situation in the hopes of getting or expectation of getting USAID dollars. Because that made no sense, and so I'm just trying to just thinking back through the way back lens. What do you think?
I think it's certainly possible, or at least they thought that was going to be the way it went, but they didn't get enough other people to sign up. Maybe that was going to be only the break even. For whatever reason, it obviously didn't catch on. They didn't have enough. I think you still have to have enough subscribers or viewers at least to be able to justify spending the money, because otherwise they're just donating it into the void. But yeah, real weird.
That's like more than one customer, right? Like it has to be like, if you're
it cannot be just Brian Stelter's mom. Yeah. Like Brian Stelter's mom is not a big enough audience to be able to dump. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever
it ties back to the Office Space reference of like when they got cornered and they had to buy like 12,000 magazine subscriptions from the black guy pretending to be retarded. when he overheard their plan to steal money from.
Well, they had to buy all the subscriptions because they had to figure out how to do the money laundering. Yeah. I went to jail for money laundering. I was addicted to drugs. He's like, man, I wasn't addicted to drugs. I was money laundering. And they were like, we have questions.
Well, speaking of that, so I'm at this AI startup with young nerds, and there's a guy trying to sell us real estate who came by the office today in Manhattan trying to sell real estate, and his name is freaking Michael Bolton. I shit you not. And so I'm trying to ask these guys, like, Michael Bolton? And then I'm like, oh shit, they're too young to know this fucking reference.
That's the worst moment, when you have a perfect teed up, like 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, and you realize that the people who are going to talk to you don't know what you're going to lay like a ace on them, and they just don't even know what it is. Yeah, that is really disappointing. And if you're not in an audience where the rest of the people are going to appreciate it, it's just, that is a real, that feels like a lost opportunity, doesn't it? Like you wish there was a camera on you.
Yeah, and you just kind of, shrugging your shoulders a bit. You're like, all right, well, I guess I'm old, but, what are you going to do? It's a funny freaking movie. You guys should go watch it.
Yeah, like, it holds. It's still, I mean, anybody who's ever worked in an office gets it. There was a claim that was made on the chat that while we were chatting that I had somehow accused you of being old by saying men of a certain age sound a certain way. It was a time period thing in the Northeast. Phil's within a few years of my age, so like I don't think I'm calling anybody old, but I'll clarify that too while we're talking about. It's just
no.
Yeah, we have the commonality.
I didn't catch that.
I know that other people were offended on your behalf, and so there's no reason. But
well, that's very sweet of them. But I'm actually like, I don't know, I think 2 years older than you.
Yeah,
just whatever the hell. That's
I think Phil's 2-3 years older as well. So same generational time.
Awesome.
Well, brother,
thanks, man. Dude.
Thanks for powering through.
Of course.
And I look forward to your hopefully your winnings, and then donating the $1,000 on top of that. I think that'd be good. I think you'll actually end up with like retirement money if you want to put that kind of money down. Dude, I think the odds are going to be very favorable to the bigger, taller, Broadway dancing, mediocre singing, unmarried Irishman who's produced no children. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I just, if things get down and dirty, like, I think unfortunately for you, you can't like grab and twist his nuts, because he will actually just enjoy that and not submit ever.
That's okay. There's plenty of ways to tap people out. That's no big deal.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
All right, have a good one. And we got another caller right on back to back. Who's on the line?
Hey, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing well. Who am I talking to?
Tim.
Tim? How you doing, Tim?
Hey, I'm behind enemy lines, man. I have a pardon for January 6th, and I work at the DOJ, and I get to resign.
Whoa. That's a wild moment.
And it is crazy, because here I am sitting watching all my colleagues here freak out.
I imagine they are. Are they talking about the fork?
Yeah.
Are you
Sure.
You're in DOJ? Are you working out of DOJ Maine?
I'm not going to say that.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I know we're seeing a lot of the United States attorneys, like usually what you see is the U.S. attorneys all resign as usual, but then the AUSAs tend to carry on. You're seeing a lot of them panicking right now?
Oh, yeah.
And then the support as well?
Yeah.
Truly wild. So, okay. So what was your J6 pardon? Was that something that was looming over your head? Was it something that was actually charged, or was it just something that was a potential charge that you were waiting for?
I unhooked my doorbell because I went to bed every night thinking they're looking for me.
Yep.
And all I did was walk across the sidewalk probably I shouldn't have been on.
Yes.
Went back there with my sister to make sure she wouldn't go in. I wouldn't have gone if she hadn't said, I'm going, whether I go by myself or not. And I said, the hell, you're going by yourself. And I went back there and kept her safe and kept her out of trouble.
Sure.
But we were right there. We were watching things happen, and we stayed where we were supposed to stay, except that as we were leaving, we had to transit across probably a sidewalk. We had to weave our way through a crowd. And so, here I am sitting with a pardon in the same week that I have to take the fork in the road decision. And I'd like to stay. I like my job. I love my job.
Yeah.
But there's no way I can stay with the craziness. You just think about the insanity on both sides of this. You can kind of laugh about it, but it's pretty real, and they have to figure out a way to work there. And the memos come through from Pam Bondi, and they're all, what do you mean we have to represent the government and stuff we don't agree with politically? It's going to be a really crazy, I think, time for anybody that sticks around. And what I can't do is have a smile on my face as I watch, So I hired Kurt to represent me and help me out. Just thanks for interviewing him. And I got in touch with him almost immediately after you had him on, I think, the third time. And anyway, so, but the thing is, I'm sad to leave. I love being a public servant, and I think I added a lot of value to what I do for the department, and I had a different perspective than a lot of my colleagues. And I've always, not always, I mean, I was a Ted Cruz supporter early on, and I don't agree with everything that President Trump does, but I love what's happening for our country. We're breathing freer air. I want you to know, there's probably at least one other me that's sitting here behind enemy lines, and I want them, whoever they are, if they haven't found your podcast yet, they need to have a smile on your face, keep your chin up, and be positive to your coworkers. Anybody who decides to stay needs to be a force for good and be positive if you stay. I don't think I can.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
Another time. I mean, I have people around me that I thought were conservative, and then I know that voted for Trump. But as recently as 2 days ago, say how upset they were about the January 6th pardons, and I just, couldn't say a thing. But they don't get it.
No, what do you think of my? I'm curious about my assessment, because this is my opinion, obviously, and you're in a much more personal sense.
Your opinions are hard and they're harsh, and I don't agree with everything that you say. And,
no, I don't need you to. No, this specific one I'm curious about. My thought is that the blanket pardon had to happen not for the sake of every person who committed any type of crime, but because the government overstepped its ability to maintain credibility in that space.
The pendulum has to swing.
Right?
The pendulum has to swing back. The pendulum is swinging. It's hard when the pendulum swings.
For sure.
The pendulum might break, but we're in the middle of the pendulum swinging back. And I hope that everybody who has an opinion one way or the other, who doesn't like what's happening, or who does, can see the other side's point of view. And if we don't, especially within the Department of Justice, if we don't find a way to get along within that department and just go, okay, we're not going to be political. I can take your politics home. And that's really hard to do right now. I don't know that people understand how dangerous it is to have an entire department that's supposed to be representing the government. For people who stay, they're mad about this personnel action. They're terrified for their families. It's a dangerous thing.
Yep.
And, just keep that in mind. And there are good people on both sides of this. And we're kind of laughing because we watch them tear our sides apart. But there are people that are terrified right now, and I'm afraid of that. That to me is terrifying, because I think desperate people will do desperate things.
Yeah, what do you fear as far as the desperation could lead to?
I don't know. I don't want to give anybody any ideas. But how hard is it to throw a case if you're a lawyer? All you have to do is not do something. There's so many things you can do wrong.
Just fail procedurally on things.
Oh, yeah. And nobody'd notice. It's whoops, I made a mistake in a very crucial moment. And you have the other side that's got the judiciary captured. It's just looking for opportunities on the technicality to hand a victory to the other side. It's a dangerous time.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of when the DOJ really pivoted so that it was so overwhelmingly left-leaning? How long it's been like that, or when that kind of like overt politicization was tolerable? Because it's not a thing that I saw in agents I worked with.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll just tell you personally. I used to turn Drudge on. There was a day when Drudge turned, and the coworkers down the hall from me, they knew that I'd read the Drudge. In fact, they're doing what you would do, of go over to Drudge to see what the conservatives thought, and they didn't realize that it fallen. And so they're kind of liberal leaning and reading along on the red lines on Drudge that Trump's a Russian agent. And that's kind of when I noticed it. And then we went further on into 2017. I mean, they took Flynn out. You go further on, you go into November. So.
Yeah. Really tragic on so many levels. A lot of casualties too.
And then they're yucking it up in communications between those bastards. I mean, really, if anybody needs volunteers to be on Pam's committee to go hunt these down, I mean, no, I'm not going to do that. I got to get out. It's just terrible.
Are you going to leave it?
We got to stop it.
Will you leave the area you think that you're in geographically?
I don't want to move. If a certain senator called me up and said, let's get some oversight going here, and they had the political will, just to keep whatever within the guardrails. I don't know. This is where you want to. Anyway, I'll have another conversation with you another time, offline sometime, maybe.
Yeah, well, the email's open. It's info@kyleserafin.com if you feel like reaching out there. There are a lot of people that are reaching out to me looking for folks that want to find a pivot from government service of one kind to a different kind and move into maybe a different agency or move into a different role. So interestingly enough, I've got it's the weirdest moment in the world because, like, who the hell am I? And I have folks that are talking to the general counsels of these major government departments that are talking to, and they're like, hey, they're reaching out and they're looking for folks that are, various different skill sets. And so
I want to thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Steve. I want to thank Garrett. What didn't get announced yet and that I hope will be soon or immediate is, they reinstated the military folks, but there needs to be the same treatment to everybody that got the mandate, that you'll either get the vaccine or you won't be working at the DOJ.
Yep.
And if you want to know a moment when I knew that justice has been weaponized, it's when Merrick Garland stood up in front of the country and told America that you could go ahead and violate the civil rights of your employees because I'm about to do it to my own people.
Yeah. I've just been reading through the documents because I've got all these signed sworn statements, from various different people, and they're so illogical and they're so crazy to read if you're just a regular person who just looks at things and sees a fact pattern, which is kind of the way I operate. I legitimately saw claims that, we needed this information from Serafin and we needed him to do this thing. And then the mandate had an injunction that was placed on it on January 21st of 2022. But we still needed him to comply with the things that were the result of the mandate because for other reasons, no further information given.
They're complaining about a list being made right now of FBI agents. That list still exists for the vaccine compliance.
Yep. What do you think the number of Christians on there?
I don't know, but I'll trade that list for the FBI agents list. when they come out and publicly apologize that they even made that thing, then we'll let the FBI agents go. I want a personal apology from Merrick Garland to the country.
Mm-hmm. That seems fair. I know a lot of people that are pissed about it. So
when I get that, or when he or whoever was his deputy who came up with that great idea is prosecuted to the full extent of the law for violating America's civil rights for that action.
Yeah. Well, the name I remember seeing on all those emails was Lee Loftus.
Yeah. Fuck you, Lee.
Yep. I've had that thought quite a few times. And
I hope you're listening, Lee. Fuck you. You broke our country, Lee.
Yeah.
Like, almost personally. Fuck you.
It's true.
And I don't use that word ever. I'm sorry. I'm just, whatever.
Well, I can see the chat saying it too. They can hear the pain.
It's not okay. And I don't know if we'll ever heal from this. We got to get through this next little while. We got to, kind of come together. I can't stay.
Are you going to be able to retire, or do you not have enough years for that?
I'm not. Another time.
Yeah.
Kurt knows who I am.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. But thank you. Thank Garrett. You guys are great. I've been listening to your podcast from day one. Fuck Dan. Bongino.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him. I listen to him once in a while, but, you guys have made a difference. I don't know that you know what the sacrifice was that you made and why you made it, but I know God had a purpose for you. And maybe there's somebody who's more courage than me that can stick around and fix this, but, and you guys have people that you can communicate with. I know that you're after blood, and I know that you're after monitors. I've come on to Kyle's podcast every morning. You can hunt me down. I'm the one that said fuck you every morning on his podcast chat. That's me. It's not okay. They were monitoring your podcast. They were giving you thumbs down. They all went away. But they're probably still listening. And if they're smart, they're listening. We need to fix this. And everybody who's still at DOJ and everybody that's at the FBI needs to look at their navels, look down, say, what is the price of freedom? We need to forgive each other. We need to apologize to one another. And we need to fix this. And the only place that it's going to get fixed right now is internally at the DOJ with the people that stick around.
It's going to take a lot of people. Yeah, well, it's going to take a lot of people to have self-reflection, which they don't seem to have.
Well, I'm it. I feel like I'm alone behind enemy lines. I can't say to my colleagues, I got a pardon this week and a fork in the road memo at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't dare utter those words together out loud. But America, we gotta get over this, guys. We've gotta come together. The leadership's gonna change again, but what we can't have is what's gone on continue. This is a chance to change it. And I know we've got strong leadership. I don't know what they're intending to do. They made some promises to the American people, to the DOJ employees. I think they were intending to honor that commitment. We'll see. But I also know there's some really hard choices that have to get made. And I think it takes each one of us to kind of look inside and go, what am I going to do to help change this?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, take care. Godspeed, man.
All right. I look forward to connecting another time. Hang in there. God bless you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye, everybody.
That opens up the line. That is an intense, and you got a little sense of the sense of betrayal that Tim's leading on. He didn't use those words, but that's the word that I would use. It's the word that has been used around me for this kind of problem. A betrayal of kind of the trust of what you thought. How do you stick around? How do you stick around in an organization that basically mobilized every single person that was in there that was speaking out loud and said, the person that you are, whether they knew it was you or not, because it sounds like that's not the case. They didn't understand that he was involved in any way. If that's the attitude of your coworkers, if your coworkers' attitude is that I'm going to like try to squish everyone that looks like you and they don't know you're listening and knowing that you're in that same group, that is intense. All right, another caller on the line. Who are we talking to?
Hi, Kyle. It's Colleen.
Hello, Colleen. I suspected. I saw the area code.
Yeah, well, and it's actually only a hangover from already moving. It should already be 6:03, but I didn't change it yet.
All right, fair enough. It's
so.
Go ahead.
So calling in after leaving a couple of stupid voicemails. After your previous caller there, Tim, I almost am afraid to ask this question, but have you and Garrett and Stephen Friend made any decisions about what you're going to do if Cash says, come on back?
I don't necessarily want to speak for the boys, but my indication is that that's what they're interested in doing. And that call.
And yourself?
I don't want to work for the government. I despise the American government. I despise what it does. I don't like the compromise. I'm not a compromise kind of guy, as you probably can tell. I don't really care about doing that anymore. I've said it a few times that if the ask came and it was specific and mission focused, that I would obviously have to consider it. But I'm less and less interested in doing that, honestly. We've got shenanigans being played right now. Cash is being delayed. They're going to push it back another week, and then they'll do the confirmation vote, and then they'll do a couple days later a swear-in, and then he'll have to go and get his feet underneath him. And I've got 45 days to decide where my family's going to live in April. And I'm not waiting on a federal government. And I'm going to make a decision that makes sense for me and the family, and we're going to try to keep minimal disruption and continuity of what we make a living doing as a podcast. And yeah, I don't want to wait on a federal government. I don't like the government when I worked for the government. I've never much thought very highly of government in general. And so as a skeptic, it was an interesting thing. It was an opportunity to serve, but I don't see that service being honored. And I'm also seeing some folks that are inside the Bureau there's a culture of resistance there that may not be overcome. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to get worked over. So after listening and seeing some of the people that are getting appointed in, and I want the best for Cash, but I don't know. I want to live my life.
Yeah, I think the idea of a Hoover Museum was probably the best one, honestly. But that being said, if you did not go back, are you still able to kind of get your name cleared, your clearance back, and then a settlement of some kind and some to make it so you can move on with your name intact?
Well, we got a couple things going on. I actually have one lawsuit that has got 3 different sort of claims in it that are religious in nature and constructive termination and so on. And I just had an attorney reach out to me, paid by Elon Musk of all people, asking to evaluate my file and see whether or not social media played any role in what the FBI did to me, as he promised to do. So they're evaluating my case and potentially filing another one. And we've been told that they're going to try to do the right thing and make it whole. So I it's a verbal agreement. Doesn't mean anything until it's cash, but it'd be nice if they did. People keep asking, will you go back? That's the words that I keep hearing. And the fact of the matter is I actually wrote it down. I should pull my letter up. In fact, I may try to do that while we're talking here. I may read it to you, but there's no going back because I didn't leave. The government left me. You heard Tim say the same thing. They departed from the norm. They departed from the standard. And I don't mean that like in a word game. I mean, they literally left where we were standing, and we were standing on the same ground that we started on, and it was no longer there. So I don't know that the government's going to be able to come back far enough to be where I was, which was, there's not a lot of flexibility morally, I don't think, if you're going to do the job that I was doing the way that you should be doing it. And I didn't get a chance to do nearly as much of it as I wanted to. I had a lot of things that I would have liked to do, but that job left me more than anything else. So That's a shame, you know? It's a shame when that happens because there's a lot of people I think that are feeling the same way that Tim is that, you know, how do you stick around in an organization that has proven that it's unworthy of you as a person, you know?
Right. Right. Well, and there's always that thing, you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And me and my husband sitting here are proof of that sometimes you stick around until the universe turns a wrench, and then you find yourself in a better place that you might not have jumped into otherwise. So there it is.
Well, that's definitely the case, and I'm more and more comfortable with that being so. You know, I don't know what to do with any of this other than their thoughts that I have. I look down the line and I go, I didn't plan on this. I didn't want to do this, but I enjoy it. Every day I'm under the gun. You probably people don't realize this. But I'm under the gun every single day to the last few minutes right before we go live with the podcast. Like I am still loading things in. I'm filling in the video slots. I'm cropping. I'm editing. I'm creating the visuals. Like I got a deadline every day that I always like, you know, the best I ever do is maybe I'm 12 or 15 minutes early, but that's pretty rare. Generally speaking, like I'm 5 minutes early and then it's go time. And I like that pressure. I've always been a pressure kind of guy. So it's kind of funny to see that. And it's a funny thing that it's been unleashed because, you know, I would have never gone and would have never had the audacity to go out there and think that anybody cared what I had to say on a podcast. I did so basically to self-preserve. It was, you know, how do we keep these guys from kicking down our door?
Right, exactly. But, well, it turns out you had a lot of people there ready to support you.
Indeed.
And we're one of them, so.
Yeah, well,
well, keep it up. And, I'm kind of glad to hear that you don't want to go back unless they were to give you a position where, you know, like Garrett or Stephen Friend, where you guys get to pull some levers and you have the power to fire people and you have the power to write new protocols and stuff like that and help to clean it up. But I'm thinking along your lines, too, that they're just too far friggin' gone, just way too gone.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to go back to something unless there's a mission that I can accomplish and be done with it. But I certainly don't want to go back and become a, you know, there's zero chance of me being interested in being an FBI agent working cases again. I'm done with that part of my life left. It disappeared. I didn't have a say in it, but it's gone. So I guess I did have a say in it. It's not the same say I would have expected.
Well, and the second part of my question is, I had touched on this a couple months ago calling in. After Kash Patel gets in there, are the people who were probably investigated simply for retweeting you or listening to podcasts, are we going to be able to get that information? And I ask only because I think that they most likely violated the civil rights and everything of anybody who ever followed you and supported you and whatever. Just curious your thoughts on that.
I think if there is legal process, there's a small possibility of some of that being exposed. That's the right answer. I mean, I would suggest that they do that and I don't know that it happened, but I know they subpoenaed my Twitter records, so that's probably not the only thing they subpoenaed. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, right. I would like to see people be made aware of the only way that you're going to be able to root out this corruption is you're going to have to own it. You're going to have to acknowledge that it happened and that some people did it, and anybody who did it should probably lose their job and potentially lose their freedom, at least for a short period of time. You gotta have consequences. That's what accountability is about. But whether that happens or not, I'm in the passenger seat just like you are. We're just watching. I'm a spectator. So
okay. All right. Well, once again, we appreciate that you came out, and we appreciate the people who quietly, at least, gave you information and stuff, and just everything you did. And keep it up. Keep your family whole, and God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks, Colleen.
All right. You take care.
You too.
Bye.
All right. And there's that one. That's the question. I get a lot of that question, and I don't know how to answer it that well, but I guess that's as accurate as I've been. Some of that was decided a little bit more like today, just talking about it with my wife. It's like, how do we wait for somebody else? We can't be living on somebody else's schedule. So I think that makes the most sense. It's still an ongoing question, obviously. All right, we got another caller on the line. Who am I speaking to?
Hey, Kyle. It's Dan.
Hey.
Ultra MTA for those who haven't heard me in a while.
The Dan.
The Dan, one of the Dans. I'm sure there are many.
There may be others. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm quite well. I'm kind of bouncing all over the place on the emotional roller coaster here tonight.
Dude, it's wild. But we'll start light. You and I have to sort something out on Bernoulli's theory.
Okay. Please.
So, Bernoulli's theory. Bernoulli was a brilliant man. Awesome lower pressure as fluids move faster up a surface, but they're not the reason airplanes fly.
Okay. What is the reason airplanes fly?
So it's kind of weird, but the air actually clings to the top of the wing. It's a fluid-like response that grabs the top of the wing and gets pulled down. So like all the ordnance you'll see on fighter planes all under the wing, it's actually following the top edge. It's kind of I don't know. I'm sure I'm rocking some people's worlds right now, but it's not what you learn in school.
That makes sense. My fluid experience was actually, I'm not sure I went through fluids. I went through statics and I went through.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. And I went through thermo. But but I'm not sure I did a fluid dynamics. I may have left my engineering program before fluids.
Even a collegiate experience though in engineering, mostly you'll do like calculate like vectors, like rotors off a wing. Like they learn to measure lift. They don't learn why. You'll hear people like claim we don't know why bumblebees fly. They break physics. No. You're just assuming they should generate a rotor like a plane. So it's kind of fascinating though. But basically, if the simple answer, if you looked at like air pressure, right? If you removed all air pressure from the top of the wing, which would be an extreme example, you'd only gain like 14 psi.
Interesting.
So it's pretty negligible to getting plane fly.
Is that why they're able to fly at higher and higher altitudes, thinner and thinner atmosphere?
Yeah, just a matter of speed, and if there's enough air to actually push down, so you're a Newtonian, you're pushing mass down, plane goes up. So.
Wild. That's very counterintuitive.
That's what we had to get sorted out.
All right.
It really is. It's bizarre.
I'm going to agree that I don't know enough to argue otherwise, and that sounds totally reasonable to me because it wouldn't be something I would try to fight back on. So good. Okay, we're there. We're clear on that one.
Dang it.
Zero issues.
Totally random, but we had to go there.
Okay, I'm glad we did. What else you got in your hopper?
Yeah. Well, I had been mulling over one of your Sunday interviews, and by the way, those have been phenomenal. Like you've taken your interviewing to a whole new level.
Thank you.
Very enjoyable, very informative. But I was just mulling over. I don't remember his name, but the FBI guy who was kind of targeted, but was still, not wanting to burn bridges.
This is Zach.
Zach, yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And with Tim tonight, like it's such an interesting. What I want to get is your reflection and. Obviously, I think those guys have earned respect, even calling in, talking with you, wanting to air their opinions. But I also think, and from probably my experience in going through where I'm a little bit more on the side of like, I want to see people and identify with people, and that maybe this is the suspendable part, but like, where do you draw a moral line? I think there's this thought that there are good people in the Bureau, for sure, right? But why is a measure of good? Why isn't that at drawing a moral line when you see something wrong? Like that has just resonated so much with me, probably because the stand I took in the corporate world, but just if we don't have that, I have a hard time calling anybody a hero in that sense. If you're seeing wrong going down and you're not getting loud, like, talk me off the ledge there,
No, I don't disagree with that. It's here's the problem with that stance. I think the issue is it's very easy, or it's appropriate to judge yourself, and it's not appropriate to judge other people. And so I don't know what the mitigating circumstances that happened in somebody else's life and why. And so I've gone from moderate to radical and back to moderate, I think, again, because I don't know. My better instinct is I have enough problems in my own life to try to figure out that I don't need to be telling anyone else how to live theirs. There's a few people that I know have aggressively crossed lines, and those people, it's black and white for me. But most people don't live in the black or the white. They live in the gray. I mean, there's a few people I know that I would say are really close to walking saints, very few, but a couple of them. And so you aspire to be more like those people. And there's a couple of people I know that basically everything they do exudes evil. And they do things that are...
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very uncommon to find people that are that polarized. And when you find them, especially if anybody else likes it, you just go, oh, why is that attractive to you? That seems horrible. It seems black and white obvious to me. But most people live in a gradient, in that gray, right? And so...
Yeah.
You know, you saw something
that really...
It's people that saw something bad happen in their government agency, but they didn't do anything about it. But it wasn't directly their work, and they think maybe the work that they was doing was positive enough to mitigate the effects of not saying anything else, right? Like, how do I judge that person? And who asked me to?
And that's a really good point. Like to not judge, especially I think as Christians, right? We're really good at judging people who aren't Christians, and that's a huge problem. But I also think what I don't want to see is the gray become the moral standard. And we seem to have lost a bit of, I'm not all for putting people on pedestals, but like having that threshold to say, you know what, it takes courage. You should have the courage of your convictions to some level as a man, at some point you have to face music.
Yes. The thing that I know about meeting like real heroes, like people who have done extraordinary acts of valor. Usually I'm talking about war heroes in this case, but I think that's where men tend to look at like physical valor and the consequences were their life, right? They're very humble about it. And very rarely do you hear people kind of own it up and say, yes, look what I did, and you should look at that as an example. In fact, it's an embarrassing thing to do. If you find a real hero that does that, it's a very strange moment because you go like, man, you did some really awesome stuff, but you're kind of a dick.
Yeah, I don't like you.
we want people to be great, but also good. And I think the issue, that moral relativism that you're talking about, that gray area, you can't have it for yourself. You cannot have a big gray swath for yourself. But when you look at other people, that gray area must be extended much more broadly, because you don't have the ability. It was said in the chat here, you can discern actions, but not motives. More importantly, you don't know mitigating factors, and you don't know the entire story because you're not sitting there and judging the things that are happening in the quiet of their heart. So, should we tolerate evil? No. Mostly we should not tolerate evil in and of ourselves. This is the old honor code. If everybody lived by it. In fact, I was a big fan of the book Lords of Discipline. Did you ever read that?
No.
This is it's pulpy, but it's fun. It's a semi-autobiographical narrative of Patrick Conroy, who graduated from the Citadel, and he does it in a fictional school that's called the Institute, which is a stand-in for the Citadel. And so it's the story of boys becoming men. And one of the stories, the primary things is that there is an honor code. And the honor code that you agree to when you go to the Institute in this book is that you will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate anyone to do it around you. So it puts the onus on those who are really close to you. It's not that you're going to not tolerate people you don't know because you don't know them, but your friends, you hold them accountable. And so we can hold the people that we know more of their heart more accountable in the way that we hold ourselves accountable. I think that's as much. But if you have all those overlapping circles, you eventually get to everybody, at least within your sphere of influence. So
yeah, absolutely.
I also think that we've done a lot of bad by doing moral relativism and saying your truth and my truth and subjective versions of truth are somehow, because what it means is that what you think is okay is okay. Well, it's just unacceptable. It's just it can't be true.
Is subject to you.
Yeah, it can't be true. You can't live in a way that's actually true. It's impossible.
True.
So that's the thought process I have on that one. If you have any others, like what do you think hearing it?
No, it definitely resonates, especially with, the difference in judging someone else because you never walk their shoes, right?
I see it really weirdly on social media right now. I watch people judge me all the time, and they tell me what I did or didn't do, and it's like, boy, if you stood next to me, you would weep for how shameful the things that you said were. But you're not a real person because you're online.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I think that's good. But here's where I'll draw the line.
Okay.
I don't give benefit of the doubt to politicians. That's my threshold. Like,
Yeah, I think that's
all for them
fairly
being held to a higher than normal standard. Unreasonable.
unreasonable standard, but that is an American standard, and none of them even meet a reasonable standard. It seems like, or a fair, or like a quite a.
Oh, it's so far.
They're really, really disappointing people. Yeah. I've met a number of congressmen at this point, and I just, when they introduce themselves by their first name, I just call them their first name. It was something I picked up when I was in the FBI, where somebody would be like a deputy assistant director or an assistant director, executive assistant director, and they'd all want to do this bullshit. They'd be like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Chris." And it's like, "What's up, Chris?" And people would be like, "Do you know who that is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fucking Chris." And they would go like, "Oh, no, Chris is like he's a da-da-da-da-da." And I would go, "Yeah, well," they're like, "Do you know what he does?" And I'm like, "No, he didn't introduce."
Ceremony.
Yeah. It's like, he introduced himself as Chris. I shook his hand and looked him in the eye. Less than 10 seconds, right? Not weird. That's it. No. He's Chris, unless he wants me to know something else. If you want me to know who you are in a leadership role, then introduce yourself with your role. And if you don't, this is America. We're all citizens. I can walk away from this job at any time. You have zero power of me. This is not a military career. I already had that career. And I get to know that Chris, the Chris in the military career has, like, you know, he's got Colonel's Eagles on his collar, or he's wearing rank that indicates that I should have a certain amount of deference that is required by law. Once you're civilian, nope.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, anyway.
Yeah. That fits right into the chip on the shoulder. For me, it's more like experts, right? Like,
credentials.
Tell me you're an expert or something. Let's have a conversation. I live for that now. But
well, wasn't it funny? I don't know if you heard this morning, but the clip that we played out there was this woman that was saying, I've got a law degree, a master's degree, and 2 bachelor's degree. I'm more educated than anybody at this table. And the answer is, yeah, but are you smarter than anybody here? Because it doesn't seem like you are. Because I don't think you are.
Awesome.
You have credentials, but I don't acknowledge your credentials. You're doing an appeal to authority. It is a very weak logical argument. It only works if I accept the authority. I know a lot of dudes with PhDs that know very little about the earth. Like, they walk on it, but they're not aware of it. Maybe they know a shitload about lasers or something, but it's very narrow in focus.
Well, think of that too, in terms of, like, I've been resonating a bit on Proverbs chapter 4 is like good, but it's like, how far have we gotten from valuing wisdom and understanding? Like, those things aren't even in our vocabulary. It's a degree, it's knowledge, it's information, right? That's such a difference from, do I understand the world around me and the mechanisms, and to the degree that we can hope to. Much is so concealed from us. But
yeah, well, I got a guy that I follow on X that he's recommended that 2025 be the year of discernment, and I think that would be an aspirational. It would be a reach for this country, aspirational in a lot of ways. But discernment is something we're badly in need of, and it starts with also being skeptical. There's a piece of that too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had somebody asking me the other day on how they could convince somebody, and I said, you can't convince anybody. When has anyone convinced you in an argument, especially as a man? Who's ever convinced you? unless they gave you permission to this is like in sales. You do the same thing.
Already had a grounds of, like, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You need permission to be able to accomplish
opposed, that. No.
Yeah, but self-revelation, like Peter was talking about this weekend's interview. Peter Johnson said, we find that in adult learning that self-revelation is far more powerful than being instructed. And the answer is that you have to do it Socratically. That you ask them questions, you let them remember an experience or come to a conclusion on their own that you were leading them to. But if you try to force feed people, they shut their mouth. It's the same thing that toddlers do.
True teaching, right? I have to get you to ask the right questions.
Mm-hmm. and honestly, like, instruction used to be that way. If you've ever had Socratic instructors, it's really, really enlightening. If you have people that just do, like, rhetorical questions, they're obnoxious. But, someone that truly is leading you to a path by asking you questions that will allow you to discover on your own. It's so much more important.
Yeah, it's huge. Mm-hmm. Well, very cool. Appreciate your thoughts, man. I don't have to take up the whole line, but yeah, fun talking with you again.
Likewise. Thanks for calling in. I enjoyed it. I'm glad we got the fluid situation handled. Bernoulli was.
Yes, this is critical stuff, man.
I'll put it in my head. I'll have to go.
To be expected.
I'm gonna have to go look it up so that I can actually digest that and regurgitate it properly. So, but at least I know where to go look now.
Well, it's so weird. Well, see, I had I don't remember the name of the book, but it took me some serious digging because I was actually designing, of all things, boomerangs, and they would not work because I was designing them on Bernoulli's principle. And it like stumped me I was a young man trying to figure this stuff out until I found this one book that actually explained the Coanda effect, which is where that air is clinging, and the mechanism of that is like, oh, how have I not learned this in, all high school, college, like.
They cheated you
stuff.
out of some really useful knowledge.
Man, it's just a trip. And then, like, you talk to anybody. Why do planes fly? Bernoulli's theory. It's what we think.
Let me ask you, did your boomerang end up flying?
Yeah. Actually, I got them to work, figured them out on my own. I was on the U.S. team for a while.
You were on the U.S. boomerang team? Is that a thing?
Yeah. No, it was a thing. Yeah.
Dan, we may have to have another conversation about the travels in your life and the boomerang team, because now I have more questions, but we don't. That's a whole nother.
No, I wasn't going to lead into that, but yeah. Sometime we'll talk through that. There's a chapter of life there, so
we'll uncover it. I want to read that chapter at some point in the near future. So put a tab on it for me.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling.
Hey, no problem.
Have a good one. I didn't know that we had a U.S. boomerang team. Tell me that any of you did. Tell me that one of you knew that there was such a thing as a U.S. boomerang team. I had a buddy that was actually on the Subaru racing team, and it was the road racing team. And so not the one that people were used to, the off-road team. He was on the road racing team and was a crew chief for them. He had a really, really fast, souped-up Subaru team. Very cool stuff. And his license plate said beer guy. And I remember meeting him. He was my neighbor, so I go down to the garage, y'all, and I see him finally get into. I go, "Hey, you're the beer guy," and he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Why do you have beer guy as your license plate, man?" And he said, "You should come into my apartment." So I went up to his floor. We live on the same floor down in Austin, near downtown, and I went to his apartment, and he opened it up, and he had like 700 cases, which doesn't sound like that many until you imagine 700 cases of beer. Thousands of bottles of beer. And they were all like with Post-it notes. And there was this like whiteboard that he had that was all sketched out with like where they came from. And he would go on trips and he would pick up like a case of beer at every brewery all along the way. And then he would run like super long, ultra long distance marathons. This guy was a freak. He would do ultras. One time he told me, he's like, "Hey man, I'm going to be out of town for a couple of days." And I go, "Okay, have a nice trip. I'll see you when you get back." "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to Tennessee." I said, "Very cool. What are you doing in Tennessee?" And he said, "I'm running an ultra." And I was like, "Oh yeah, nice. Where are you running it?" And he was like, "It's just across the state." And I was like north, south or east, west or what? And he goes, "No, diagonally, the longest route across Tennessee." He ran it. And I said, "Do you listen to like audiobooks or podcasts or music? Like, what do you do when you're running for days?" And he was like, "I just drink warm, flat beer." And that's what he did. He would straight up carry a small ultralight backpack that was full of like shitty beer. And he would drink beer and run across like the entire state of Tennessee. I've met some really weird people. And he was definitely one of them. I should probably reach out to him. What a weird thing to go do with your time. Anyway, the beer guy. I wonder if he's still living down there. Probably not. All right, so the line is open. If you guys want to we could probably get another call or two in. Otherwise, I will shut this thing down, and then I will go out and give my kids a kiss goodnight, and we'll do this thing for Friendly Friday in the morning. But there's a couple of you that are still out there that are thinking about a question that you have, I imagine, or something that you would like to share with the team. We've had some interesting shares, and sometimes these little chat sessions we have here, this kind of call-in program, is kind of therapeutic, I feel like. It seems like there's a lot of variety in what you all have got going on, which is a good reminder to all of us. We all have a lot going on. This is the same thing that Dan and I were just talking about. You just don't know what's going on in somebody else's life. You don't know who else is out there hiding a secret and struggling, or what burden they're carrying. I was reminded of that pretty intensely with a friend of mine last couple days in the FBI. Actually, the last day that I was in the FBI, I was discussing with my boss, who hadn't talked to me in a couple weeks, and a mutual friend that we had, his wife had committed suicide, and I had no idea that she was struggling with demons. And apparently he did, obviously, he was married to her, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she just finally lost a battle." So how many people are out there carrying that burden that you just don't know, that they're just one notch away, from being able to not carry it? There's probably a bunch of them. Anyway, it's a good reminder that we should be have more grace than necessary. Except James O'Keefe, I do want to sit down and punch him a few times in the face. So James and I can go and make some money for charity. He's closer to the black end of things for whatever it's worth. Especially because he has this fake Christianity. It's really awful. Truly off-putting. So, in any case. All right, I'm going to... I had one other little clip in here that I thought I saved for you guys. And I want to see if it's still something sitting in here. Oh, I know what I have. Something to think about. I didn't play it earlier today, and it may not have been something that was... It didn't fit in, but this is ongoing. There's this strange attitude that's happening, that resistance we talked about in DOJ that we just heard about from Tim. It's happening in a lot of places. And apparently, folks that are working with ICE are actually tipping off some of the illegals. You know? And so here is where that attitude comes from. There are people that are being told that they're the hero to resist American law enforcement that is deporting folks that don't belong here, including really violent criminals. Seems problematic. This is a little clip I was going to play, and then if anybody jumps on the line, we'll take one more call. Otherwise, we'll shut it down after this.
Let me read a headline to you. Chicago leaders encourage residents to exercise their rights in resisting Trump's deportation policies. The governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, basically admitted that he knew somebody that didn't have full documentation, that he was hiding over his garage.
But there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Your comment on all of that?
Well, I think the governor's pretty foolish saying what he said, because I got note of it, won't let it go, we'll look into it. And if he's knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien, that's a violation of Title 8 United States Code 1324. I would seek prosecution, or the secretary would seek prosecution. So maybe he's bluffing. If he's not, we'll deal with that. And as far as suing sanctuary cities, well, get in line, because the Trump administration is going to do that already. Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. There's one example, right? If the young sanctuary cities in New York City, if they would have gave us over the killer of Laken Riley when he got arrested in New York City for endangering a child, he would have been in jail, and he would have never killed Laken Riley. Sanctuary cities are responsible for deaths of thousands of young children throughout my career, and we're going to sue him, we're going to hold him. And look, if he's got to go to the Supreme Court, that's what President Trump wanted to do. He will end sanctuary cities.
You know, there was a 2011...
Sean Hannity goes on and says something that has nothing to do with that. Yeah, Tom Homan. Making a lot of sense right there. That's Phil Murphy, governor of New Jersey, that was making the claim that he is harboring illegals. Kind of interesting. His wife, Tammy Murphy, ran for, I think, a Senate seat. Is that correct? I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, she ran for a Senate seat in 2024 and received donations from none other than Julie Kelly and husband. So that's cool. Anyway, screw them. People that want to subvert our national sovereignty. I think that's going to be it for us. We got a Friendly Friday coming up in the morning, which means that we'll have Steve Friend. If you guys don't know Steve, you will tomorrow. And we'll see what kind of hot takes he's got on store. You guys can follow them at the AmRad Pod, American Radicals Podcast on Rumble, for all you that are watching on Rumble. If you're watching over on X, follow them on X. They're at AmRad Pod. Those are my buddies. Those are other FBI whistleblowers who have been out there, and they're just keeping themselves in the public so they don't get raided. For all of you that have joined the program, thank you so much for allowing us to do this. This is our little give back to you, but it's really my chance to connect with you guys in a different way than just talking at you with my thoughts. Get to have a little bit more of that back and forth, and I do really enjoy it. You guys change my mood half the time we do this. So God bless all of you. Hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks for calling for those that did. Anyone else that wants to get in, we'll do it again next week, and see you in the morning.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.